Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. I just want to touch base with you guys ahead of Hurricane Irma now, which is our second major storm to hit very close on the heels of Harvey. The first thing that you probably have heard about at this point is that the illustrious governor of U.S. Virgin Islands, who was of course born in New York, it would have to be that way, has issued an executive order for gun confiscation as well as ammunition confiscation and, quote, any other property deemed necessary for the Guard to fulfill their orders, whatever the case may be. This is, of course, hardcore constitutionally illegal. That is a no-no. The Second Amendment says shall not be infringed, and we don't do gun confiscation. Like, that's not how this works in a constitutional republic. So the NRA has, of course, threatened to sue to stop this order unless it is rescinded. Hopefully it will be rescinded. We'll see. But it would, of course, be a New Yorker who would give that one out. Like, folks, people just don't understand this. I'm not talking about y'all in upstate because I get a lot of y'all are just pretty much political prisoners. But, like, liberalism is a pox and a mental disorder, and now it's affecting these people down there in the Caribbean, no less. It is what it is. But I want you to think about something for a minute here. Think about something for a minute. These people are facing the strongest storm, to my reckoning, the strongest storm in the Atlantic ever to be documented. And now the people that they have elected are saying that your Bill of Rights is now rescinded. You don't have a right to defend yourself. You don't have a right to defend your property. We're going to come and take it. Woo-hoo-hoo. Not a good thing. So here's what's going to end up happening. In the event that we have this storm continuing across its path and strength, it's probably going to cause a lot of devastation. And folks, looting doesn't start when there's water way up high. Looting starts when water comes down and pathways are traversable, okay? When pathways are traversable and you have no electricity, it is a breeding ground for violent thugs, criminals, looters, just like at Katrina. Talk to someone who responded to Katrina. Talk to law enforcement who were there. They'll tell you what was going on. And it was so much worse than what's being reported. There's also a significant amount of looting in Texas right now that's not being reported. But, you know, it is what it is. There's a lot of stuff that's going on right now. And the best advice that I could give you folks down there in Virgin Islands is, of course, to batten down the hatches and to make sure that you've got the ability to give yourself water, clean water, filtration mechanisms. People forget, like, boiling water presupposes that there is a fuel source with which to build some sort of heat, fire, like electrical stove, whatever the case may be. So when you don't have electricity and gas is offline and you don't have firewood, like, that's troublesome. So you need a way to purify your water. And folks, I love everybody here, but people have gotten real slack in their preparedness and their mentality, and also in their preps. So if you don't have a little filtration system on the go, like a Berkey Sport or a Sawyer, and I'll put links below to what I recommend and what I use, but you really should consider that, okay? Because a lot of these people are having to evacuate because their homes are getting swallowed up with water. What are you going to do in a situation where you have to leave your home and you don't have your big giant Berkey? I love mine personally. But what are you going to do when you don't have it? You have to have something to take with you, okay? So that's part one. Part two. In the event of a strong landfall with this thing, like what they're predicting, I think the weather forecasters are calling for this thing to hit Florida around Sunday, I think, early Sunday afternoon. If the amount of water present in this thing and the flooding just goes up, it's going to bring about, of course, a rise in waterborne diseases, okay? Now, when you combine this on the top of Harvey, where you have this devastating amount of flooding, like, folks, there are two major population centers here that are projected at this point. Two major population centers that have had massive flooding, large numbers of people population-wise, and water that is carrying disease around these populations. That is a not good scenario for the spread of waterborne diseases. Waterborne fecal oral diseases, I'm talking dysentery, cholera, typhoid, lots of different things like that, okay? So having pure water is really, really important, y'all. And another thing to consider on top of this is that water and electrolytes go hand in hand. People get themselves into a real pickle when they're drinking lots of water and they're sweating and they're moving around and, you know, they're not sleeping well. The circumstances are not in their favor and they're not paying attention to their electrolytes. your sodium gets messed up, you're going to see mental status changes, people getting real irritable. Potassium, of course, mental status changes, but also you're talking heart attacks, things like that when people's potassium get really, really messed up. Potassium and sodium are really important. So you got to make sure that if you're hydrating, that you're paying attention to your electrolytes too, folks, for your entire health. And my concern right now at this point, looking at the situation, there's a lot of old people in these retirement homes down there. There's also a lot of old folks who have bought these homes and are living independently down there, but they still, need to be checked in on. So if you got friends or family members down there in South Florida, y'all, and these retirees, these folks who are in their late 70s, 80s, 90s, and upwards, make sure that you're taking care of them, okay? Because they need your help. They need to be protected just like infants and children, okay? So little old folks got to take care of them, y'all. So that's what I have to say. I hope that it's helpful for you. I'm really, really hoping that this executive order will get smashed like the nasty little festering sore that it is. This nation, folks, has been dealing for the past few weeks with natural disasters, but this instability with Antifa, like you're going to have to plan that after these, God forbid, but you're going to have to plan that after this thing makes landfall, and if there's devastation associated with it, that it is going to be manipulated by these groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter to say, oh, look, the government doesn't care about brown people or black people. The government doesn't care about anybody but white people. And the flooding in these areas, and just wait for it, because it was the case in Houston with the levee. The flooding in these areas was a classic example of environmental injustice, and just expect it. Just wait for it. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it. They, of course, will never let a good crisis go to waste. They'll use every opportunity they can to make victims to swell their ranks, because they're to the minds of people who can actually work and think for themselves. Their policies are so odious that no reasonable person would accept them, unless they were, of course, placed into a victim category. That's what I got for y'all today. For now, it's Patriot Eaters signing off, and I'll see y'all later.